I thought to expedite our meeting by kind of going through your VUL that you sent us over through your IUO challenge. I actually brought Chris on because he's a little bit better at this newer product than I am. Say hello, Chris.
Hello.
So you don't see my face usually, Joe, on camera, so I'm kind of behind the scenes. So we're gonna go ahead and dive through this. I'm gonna get a little bit of help from Chris, and we're gonna kind of just mark all the notes of your policy, and then I think we're scheduled to talk tomorrow. So we'll talk to you tomorrow about this in more detail. So let me go
All right,
ahead
rocking.
and okay. So and we're testing out a couple things, Joe. So don't mind me, but Chris, were you able to mark on your side or no?
Let's test this out. So we got technology, Joe. We're going to see. We both got the same kind of vibe board. And let's see if I write on this, if it shows up on yours.
Yeah, look at that.
That's pretty awesome. Not going to lie.
That is pretty cool.
That's a game changer. That's a game changer.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
yeah, so let's just dive right into it. One thing that, so it looks here like you were kind of, and I think when Dan was telling me, Chris, that Joe is going to kind of front load with 35 and then do the 17,000 a year, which equals the 52 in the first year.
Yeah.
And so I noticed, which I thought was kind of cool, is this is one of the first ones where they've actually make the cash value and the surrender value the same amount. And I believe you were telling me that they charge extra for this.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get into that here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
the first biggest thing, Joe, is they're using an 8.0% rate of return every single year. So the chances of this illustrated happening is never going to happen, but we're going to go through and talk about it anyways. So we're going to go ahead and skip ahead here, and then Chris, do you want to talk about it here, or you want to go through the fees first, the loan stuff?
All right. You're on page 3. I'm trying to think. I have to kind of follow along with you on my end. So it's page. What page are you on?
Page 3.
You're on page 3?
Yeah.
All right. You have things highlighted on yours that I don't see. Are you sure you're on page 3?
Yeah,
You're on page 4. Oh, page 3, but it's page 4 of the slide deck.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, including the cover page. All right. So,
also,
all right, so
Chris, if you click on the Joe, we're dealing with tech. If you click on the top where it says, see how under the next to the invite button?
Oh yeah, I can see you. Right.
Click TW, and then it'll follow me. Like just with your stylus.
Desktop.
Yeah, either one, I guess. I don't know. No, the vibe board, the one on the left. Just like click it with your mouse.
I can't. I'm on my vibe board. I'm not on the.
I know, but you see, see up here. You see my screen right now?
No.
See if I click. You don't.
Oh
see...
yeah. I did that.
Now click mine though instead of me clicking yours.
I did yours, and I see desktop, so I'm good.
Yeah, but you're on my desktop. I gotta.
But that's the only option. I got desktop.
There you go. There you go. Now try it. It'll follow my screen.
Okay. Boom.
Okay. Sorry about that, Joe. All right. Okay. So anyways, go through this, Chris, because, I look at this, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, great. We get 8% every single year, right? And then we get to 65 and we start taking income, right?
Yeah.
And we have 1.5 million, and 135 is a withdrawal rate of 8.8%. So I don't understand how they do that. But
so year one, so yeah, exactly. You're basically working it down, and that's assuming that you're never having a negative year or anything of this nature. Now, the other thing about this policy is, like, if you have a negative year, you are also going to have losses in the cash value column, right? In the column here, because when you have losses within IUL, at least you're only having the cost of fees and the net amount at risk and the cost of insurance and stuff of that nature. That kind of works against you. But when you lose money in a negative year with a VUL,
Hold on though. I think they're invested in the index. Though,
oh yeah,
in
they're
this
using the index strategy in this. Yes, you're right. So I get it, but okay, so it's a VUL platform that kind of has a hybrid IUL component to it. Yes, that's so what we're looking at here is when you look at these numbers here, and I'm gonna erase that so I can write my green so I know where I'm going here. So what we have going on here is you have 1,523,000. You have 1.827 of death benefit. So you're looking at just about a 300K net amount at risk is what we're looking at here. So when we talk about the fact that you are that this thing is assuming that you're going to have 8% that it's going to be growing at, which is just, to me, I mean, Tyler even said it, is insane. And you're talking about an 8.8% distribution rate. It's assuming that you're going to have 80 basis points of positive arbitrage every single year. Any year. And by the way, Tyler, I didn't see this. Did you see what the loan rate is?
Yeah, it's 4.5. So
okay, so you have a 4.5% loan rate, right? So what happens is on this, you have a 4.5% loan rate. Basically, with anything of this nature, when you have any performance of the index that's worse than 4.5%, it's going to inject more risk into this policy because it's going to increase your cost of insurance. It's going to add in loan costs because when you see here, you see the policy loan, you're taking this income every single year. The loan interest is right here. It's assuming what's happening is that because it's got this 80 basis points right here of positive arbitrage compared to what's expecting you to gain, it's giving you what's called more credits in the policy than the cost of the loan interest, and so that's how the policy kind of works on this perpetual level. Now, what's happening here is you can see the death benefits going down every single year right here as years go on, because it's going down as the cash value goes down, because as they hit distribution phase, they hit the level death benefit, which is fine. That's okay. But what's happening is you see the accumulated value is going up. And this is important to understand because now what's happened is look at these numbers. Okay, so by the time you're 80, this is really important to understand. By the time you're 80, you have 3,252,000. And this is just a really easy way to understand this and do the math. You have $3,252,000 of cash value, but you have, and so the cash value, that's basically your accumulated value. And then you have your surrender value is 589. And so basically, here's the deal with that. This is basically the way you figure this out. You go 3,500,000 or 252,443 minus 589. 565 is going to be like, I don't know. Let me get a calculator. I don't want to do the math out. You'd think I'd be able to do this on the fly, but do you have a calculator on that, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
2,662,878.
So you have okay, 2 million. So this amount, I'm going to write it again because you're writing in black. You need to change your color. Okay. Yeah, nitpicky. So this is your loan amount. Okay. So think about this. In this year at 80 years old, this is banking on from at 80 years old and beyond. It's showing that you're having, more and more and more income coming out of this thing. So imagine at 80 years old, this is just one bad year. It's showing you 4.5% loan cost, right? Which I don't know if that's guaranteed or not, or if that loan cost could go up. I'm assuming it could go up a little bit.
Yeah, it's variable.
Right? It's a variable loan rate, so that could go up.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is if there's a 0 year in this, just 1 year, at this point in time, you have that 589. So let's just to talk about this really simple. You have the 589. I'm just going to write 589,000 just like it is. And you have the 135,000. And so what does that look like? That's 454, right? So you got $454,000 of your cash. Now, remember, the reason this number in the surrender value is going down slower than just the pure 135 is because you have these loan credits or these accumulation credits because of the positive arbitrage baked into the policy, which just is not reality. And I think it's important to understand that. So now we look at this 454, but let's assume that the market, the index does -10, but because you're in the index, you're protected from the downside risk, so you only get 0. Well, guess what? You still have this 4.5% loan rate, which you owe on this $2,662,000, right? So what's 4.5% of 2,662,878, Tyler?
120,000.
120,000. Okay. So we go 3, 4. Okay, so 334,000. So we started the year off with 589. And if we have a 0 year, because we got to pay for the interest that's going to happen on that 2,662,000, we're going to have to pay 120,000 ballpark in interest. And then we have our 135,000 of income that you're banking on. That's going to get, this one, that's going to get you the 454. You're going to have a $334,000. And by the way, let me see what this showed you were going to have. That's 1 year of negative. This illustration with this one example shows the next year you'd have 518, but you only have 334 on a negative year. This is why I always kind of tell people these illustrations show just these pie in the sky unicorn situations that will never happen. And like you could see that 1 year, I don't know what 334 is as a percentage reduction of the 518 with one negative year, but I can show you now because of that one negative year, there's more internal costs, the cost of insurance and net amount at risk. Everything is just way out of whack. And so now you're in a situation where like, it's just going to be really bad. Like there's no recovering 1 year. I promise you there's no recovering from that at that point in time. Now, I'm assuming that you are making it to that year, first off, right? I'm assuming you're making it to 80 years old because I knew that would be an example where I could show you where it's like really significant to make an impact. But I promise you, if we look at it back here, when you're 69 years old, you got 1,750,000, 1.296. So you got like $400,000 of loans there already. That you start having negative years, and when then it has a real negative impact on the policy. Now the thing to really realize, and I'm going to erase a lot of this, right? I'm just going to like scrub this because I think it's really important to just kind of see it very cleanly. The thing that's important to understand with this is that when we look at these numbers in this section, this is assuming positive arbitrage of 0.8% every single year. But the reality is about 25% of the years that we're looking at in here, in these two columns, 25% of the years, the market is going to perform worse than your cost of borrowing. So not only you're going to have the negative, not going to have the positive 0.8 arbitrage, you're going to have negative. So 25% of the time, that means what I just showed you happening one time at 80 years old is going to happen here. It's going to happen here, once every 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to happen here. It's going to happen here. It's going to happen here. So like, and it may happen 2 years in a row. I mean, we all know how this goes. It happens kind of sporadically. Sometimes it happens a couple of years in a row. But the bottom line is when we look at this, what would it look like if these years go negative on you? And I promise you what's going to happen is that this policy, what it looks like at 589 at age 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, with only 4 negative years, which I bet you it'll be 5 because it's a 20-year period. So let's just plop one more out there. With 5 negative years in that situation, that 589 is probably 0 because of how the policy will unwind itself and unravel itself against you. So the risks in these VULs, I mean,
and let me add a couple things, Chris.
Yeah.
So so we always talk about, so yes, option one is you don't show as much income coming out. right? So that's, and that's fine and dandy, but
That
again,
doesn't
it still
reverse.
doesn't really solve the problem, right? But number two is like what I always tell people is like, okay, well, that's not even worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is you make it to 80, right? Then the policy lapses. And they
Yeah.
do have that no lapse prevention rider, or overloan protection rider, Chris.
That's
But
at
if we read
75.
yeah, that's at 75. So if you made it to 80, right? Here is they show the taxable, that's the gain, right? And so
Mhm.
you're gonna owe taxes. You would get hit with a tax bill for this full amount at whatever 35%. So that's a
Well, no,
500
because once you hit 75, the overloan protection rider kicks in. It's if it happens before 75 where the problem is.
Gotcha, but I thought that was only if you pay target premium every single year.
Yes. So I guess he's not funding it like that, is he? So okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so regardless, if it happens at 74, you're gonna pay.
Still
You're
ugly.
gonna get a
It's
tax
still
bill. Yeah.
the risks are significant, and we're always. I mean, I don't know, man. The way I look at it is like, what's the upside? What's the downside? Can I live with the downside? And when you look at the kind of the downside of this policy and the risks, like to me, it's just totally out of alignment with what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple other things that I wanted to point out to him real quick. And is I'm gonna kind of skip through this here. Nice. So, and again, Chris, just to confirm, mainly for Joe here. So, you can invest because it's a VUL, Joe. You can actually invest in all of these actual funds, but they have an expense tied to them. Okay, and if you're invested in these funds, you actually don't get that loss, that 0% floor. So, if the market went down 10%, you would lose that 10%. So that's just so you are aware. They have you everything in here. So everything that you have is in that index account, right? And then I wanted to get into show them kind of the fees because I was even a little surprised about it. And I think it's on this page.
Mine's not tracking you, so you just got to tell me what page on the slide deck you're on.
19. I think if you click follow at the top center.
I did, but it's not. It's not doing it. We'll figure that out later. But let's just keep going for now. Okay, I'm with you. I'm on the right one.
Okay. So, here on top of that, now they're assuming that 8%, right? And Chris, everything we went through was earning 8%, but what they don't tell you is there's also a 1.25% charge, and there's another 0.06% monthly charge, which is like 0.72%, right? And so you're looking at almost 2% in fees. And so if the market does 6, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Let's just say SP does 6, they're still factoring out 2%. So it's really like you did 4.
Yeah, to think that this thing's gonna get 8.8% long term after fees and after everything is I don't even know how they're legally allowed to illustrate this.
I mean, they're doing it because of that right there. So
yeah,
and you're only getting he's only getting 65% participation of the S&P. So,
oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, I just I don't know. I just look at this and
go to the next page, 20 of 47. Am I missing anything on that?
let me look. No, let's see here. I'm looking now. No, but like, here's what I want to like, let me take 1 minute to just talk about this real quick, because this is kind of talking about what I was talking about before. So the hypothetical credited, oh yeah, you're right. So it is the 65 par rate here, 65% participation rate. So what we can do here though is look at this. So this is looking back. You obviously had the booming 90s here. But you have 1 year, like let's look at all the years that are worse than the cost of borrowing in this, right? Like the worse than the 4.5%, right? And when we look at this, the years the market does worse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 30 years. So it's a third of the time. I said 25% of the time that it performs worse than the cost of the 4.5% borrowing. And so what that does is it injects a lot more costs into the equation, into the policy that the illustration doesn't show. And what the illustration will never show is that those costs compound against you. And it makes it even harder for the policy to make up for as years go on. And so, yeah, I mean, Joe, I don't know. I look at this and
You're young. I mean, he's younger than me. So it's like, why? And I know he, that's why he. And then the only other thing, Chris, that I wanted to really talk about, and then Joe will certainly talk about it more tomorrow, is page 24 of 47. And I believe, right? So he's paying the 17,000, right, per year. I think it's 1740 or something.
Oh yeah. And then you got the guideline level.
And so the guideline. So if I'm understanding it correctly, right, he's overfunding it in the first year, which is where you get to the 52. But the guideline is really like that would be him max funding the contract.
Correct. Yeah. So this is not a max efficient contract, even by the scale of what they're doing. So I guess the way I would finish this off, just to keep it really simple and really to the point, is first and foremost, I never want to take risk in any kind of life insurance policy. That is not the reason I would ever put money with an insurance company. And so I would ask Joe, what is your purpose of getting this policy? If it's to take risk and you want to take a lot of risk, well, then I would say don't do that with an insurance company. Take risk elsewhere. That's why we love whole life insurance so much, is because as a foundational asset, you want it for the guarantees and you want it for all the security that whole life insurance and the life insurance companies provide you. That life insurance companies are great at managing the safe elements of your portfolio. But when you try to get really fancy and injecting more risk into it, that's kind of where you give up control and it benefits them more than it benefits you. At the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. And so when we look at this, on top of that, if you were going to do this, even though I disagree with it, the 17,000 a year, you get the 37,000, you're basically underfunding this contract by 20,000 a year. Now, to that accord, I haven't run in this illustration. I don't have this Securian software. So I don't know between these numbers what they were able to do because of the fact that you did the front load. That would impact, you may not be able to do all 37,000 every single year because you did that 52 up front. That would go down, but it wouldn't go down by 20K per year for that long of a period of time. And then secondly, it shows him only funding it for what, 10 years or just about 10 years or a little over that?
Yeah, 13 years.
And so it shows vanishing premiums, and those premium costs, those expenses of the policy never really actually go away. And so that also injects more risk into this. And so once again, I just look at this. I would ask, what is the purpose of this account, and what are you hoping to be able to do with this money? And understanding the moving parts, because it's not just about what the policy shows on an illustration, because I think we just showed you that this is never going to happen. And then the next question is, because we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and Tyler knows more about your background than I do, Joe, but like I look at this and I go, hey, if you're planning on using this money for any kind of investment while you're accumulating and while you're younger, and like real estate, for instance, you're injecting a ton more risk into the equation, and you never want your insurance policy to add more risk to your investments that you have going on elsewhere. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
All right. Well, I think that gives them enough food for thought, Chris.
Okay.
And I'll keep you updated, and
okay.
We'll continue the talk tomorrow, Joe.
All right. Rock and roll.